everyone, welcome back to another What's for Dinner video, or welcome if you are new. My name is Veronica, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some meals that I fixed for my family this past week. We tried 3 new recipes that we loved, and I will be sharing those recipes with you, so stay tuned. Let's get to cooking. First up, I fixed autumn chicken. The first thing that I done was add 2 tablespoons of olive oil into a large Ziploc bag. This is a sheet pan meal and it is now one of our favorite meals. This meal is delicious. After I got my olive oil added into my Ziploc bag, I then added in a tablespoon of minced garlic. I then sprinkled in some salt and pepper to taste into my Ziploc bag as well. I then added in 3 tablespoons of poultry herbs. You could use fresh herbs if you prefer. You may have to add just a little bit more. I already had this on hand, so this is what I used, and like I said, this turned out perfect. I then added in 1.5 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. I then placed 6 bone-in chicken thighs into my Ziploc bag. I then sealed my Ziploc bag and I squeezed all of the air out of it, and then I massaged all of those ingredients all over my chicken thighs to make sure they were well coated, and then I just set that to the side. I then peeled and diced up 3 fresh sweet potatoes. This is another one of those recipes where you can kind of play around with. If you don't like sweet potatoes, you can use a different vegetable or any of the vegetables that I will be using in this recipe. You use what makes your family happy. And also, if you like the skin on your potatoes, leave it. I don't like the skin on mine, so I make sure I peel it off. But you do whatever makes your family happy. After I got my sweet potatoes diced up, I then added them into a large bowl. I then washed and sliced up 2 Honeycrisp apples into wedges. You want to make sure that your wedges are kind of thick. Some of mine were thin, and whenever they cooked, they were a little bit too thin. So the next time that I make this, I will make sure that my wedges are thicker. You can use your favorite apple for this recipe. I used Honeycrisp because they were on sale at my local grocery store, but they did not disappoint. They were really sweet and a really good baked apple. I then placed all of my apple wedges into my bowl with my sweet potatoes. I then added in a frozen bag of broccoli florets. I was going to use fresh broccoli for this recipe, but my grocery store was completely out of fresh broccoli. I don't know what was going on. And then I drizzled 2 tablespoons of olive oil on the vegetables and the apples. And then I just mixed all of that together to make sure all of that was coated in the olive oil. I then poured my vegetables and my apples onto a large sheet pan. And then I just spread those around on my sheet pan to make sure they were on there evenly. I then placed my chicken thighs on top of my vegetables and apples. If you like a crisper vegetable, you can sear your chicken in a skillet before adding it on top of your vegetables and your apples. We don't think that it's soggy this way. I know some people do. And if you do, like I said, just sear it beforehand so it will release some of those juices into your skillet and not on your vegetables. I then chopped up 6 slices of bacon into 1-inch pieces. You could use more or less bacon if you prefer, or if you don't like bacon, you don't have to use bacon at all. And after I got all of my bacon chopped up, I then just sprinkled it on top of my chicken thighs and on top of my vegetables and apples. I then placed it in the oven that I had preheated to 450 degrees and I baked it for 35 minutes. I then turned my oven to broil and I broiled it for 5 minutes just to give my chicken a nice golden brown crispy skin. And this is what it looks like whenever it comes out of the oven. This was a perfect fall sheet pan meal. Let me know in the comments below if you say autumn or fall and where you are from. I would love to know. And here's my plate. I also fixed some brown and served dinner rolls to have as a side. Next up, I fixed a Tater Tot Enchilada Casserole. The first thing that I done was add 1 pound of lean ground beef to my large skillet, and then I just chopped that meat up. This was our first time trying this recipe, and it did not disappoint. This is probably one of my favorite tater tot casseroles. I then added in 1 diced up sweet onion to my skillet, and a tablespoon of minced garlic. I then just mixed everything together, and I let that continue to cook until my ground beef was no longer pink. When my ground beef was finished cooking, I then just took that and drained all of the grease off of it. I then added in a 10-ounce can of mild red enchilada sauce, a 1-ounce pack of fajita seasoning mix, and then I stirred everything together to make sure everything was well combined. I love trying all of the different varieties of tater tot casserole. They are all so good. I love casseroles and I love tater tots, so combining the two is delicious. I then added in 4 cups of frozen tater tots, and then I just stirred everything together to make sure that my tater tots was well coated in all of the other ingredients. I then poured all of those ingredients into a large baking dish, and then I just spread all of that in there evenly. I topped my casserole with 2 cups of finely shredded pepper jack cheese, and I just spread the cheese on there to make sure that the top of my casserole was covered in the cheese. I also sprinkled about a handful of finely shredded mild cheddar cheese on top of that as well. I then stuck it in the oven that I had preheated to 350 degrees, and I baked it for 28 minutes. And this is what it looks like whenever it comes out of the oven. And here it is in my bowl. You can top it with your favorite toppings. I topped mine with a spoonful of sour cream, and like I said, this was delicious. This night for dinner, I fixed crock pot smothered pork chops. The first thing that I done was add 2 10.5 ounce cans of healthy cream of chicken soup to a bowl. This was my first time trying this recipe, and these pork chops turned out delicious, and this recipe is super simple to make. I then added in a 1-ounce pack of onion soup mix, a 1-ounce pack of pork gravy mix, a 14.5 ounce can of low sodium chicken broth. I then whisked all of those ingredients together to make sure everything was well combined. After those ingredients was thoroughly combined, I just set my bowl to the side, and then I seasoned my pork chops. I used 4 thick bone-in pork chops, and I seasoned each side of the pork chops with some garlic powder. You could use boneless pork chops if you prefer, but if you do, you may have to cut down on the cook time because bone-in pork chops cook slower, but they have a much juicier flavor. After I got both sides of my pork chop seasoned, I then poured half of the gravy mixture in the bottom of my crock pot. I then placed all of my pork chops on top of the gravy mixture. After I got all of my pork chops added to my crock pot, I then poured my remaining gravy mixture on top of the pork chops and made sure they were well covered in all of those ingredients. I then placed my lid on my crock pot and I let that cook on low for 5.5 hours. After 5.5 hours, I then made a cornstarch slurry using 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and 3 tablespoons of water. After I got my cornstarch and water added to my small bowl, I then just mixed those two ingredients together. I then poured my cornstarch slurry into my crock pot and then just gave that a gentle stir. The cornstarch slurry helps to thicken up the gravy, but if you like a thinner gravy, you don't have to use the cornstarch slurry. You make it how your family likes it. I then placed my lid on my crock pot and I let that cook on high for an additional 30 minutes. And then the pork chops were done, and here's my plate. I also fixed some green beans, some mashed potatoes, and some brown and served dinner rolls to have as a side, and this meal was perfect. It was absolutely delicious. You could also spoon out the gravy and put it on your mashed potatoes if you like. I'm not a gravy and mashed potato person, but that's just me. Next up, I fixed taco soup. I start off by cooking 1 pound of lean ground beef, and I add in 1 diced up sweet onion. Taco soup is one of my family's favorite soups, and it's so easy to make. I just throw all of my ingredients in my large Dutch oven and it comes together wonderfully. The day that I fixed this soup, it was super cold outside. It was 37 degrees here in East Tennessee, and we had some snow flurries, so we really wanted a nice warm soup to warm us up. Whenever my meat was finished cooking, I just took that and drained all of the grease off of it, and I returned it back to my stovetop. I then add in a 14.5 ounce can of petite diced tomatoes and tomato juice, 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, a 15.5 ounce can of undrained light red kidney beans, a 15 ounce can of undrained black beans, a 15 ounce can of undrained golden sweet whole kernel corn, which I completely forgot to do until the very end, so don't forget your corn, 1 pack of your family's favorite taco seasoning, and 1 pack of ranch salad dressing and recipe mix. I then just stirred all of those ingredients together to make sure everything was well combined. I then placed my lid on my Dutch oven and I let that cook between low and medium heat for about 10 to 15 minutes, just until everything is heated through, and I just stir it occasionally just to make sure nothing sticks to the bottom of my Dutch oven. And after it's heated up, it's ready to serve. Just don't forget your corn, and you can top it with your favorite toppings. I topped mine with some finely shredded mild cheddar cheese and some sour cream. That's it for today's video. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.